Yeah.
Okay. So we'll quickly recap about what we saw yesterday. So we saw the very different kind of weights, right? And it's a few examples. So we saw what is implicit weight. So implicit weight is something which is used implicitly for all the elements, right? So irrespective of whatever elements that are loaded in DOM, it will defaultly wait for the particular timeout. It is mainly used in scenarios where we have certain conditions or SLAs where we have to wait for that much time or maximum that much time to for that particular element to load. So whereas explicit wait is something like we are explicitly waiting for some element to load based on some conditions. Right? So it can be presence of element locator, it can visibility of element, whether the element is clickable or not. So we have certain classes which are implementing these particular weights, and they are enabling us to do all these things. And apart from that, we have regular thread.sleep as well. Right? We don't we use thread.sleep for some occasions where we really need that. Apart from that, we most of the cases we use explicit weight itself. So we didn't see on weight yesterday, so we'll continue with that. There's something called fluent weight, right? So anyone aware of what is a fluent weight? Can anyone say me what's a fluent weight? Or if you're not aware, you can put it in chat as well. Okay. So fluent weight is kind of similar to your explicit weight, except that you can customize it. That's it. So there are two things. If you note in explicit weight, for example, let's see this example. So you're asking this particular element to be located for the presence of element, right? And what is the time you have given? You are given 10 seconds for the maximum time for the particular element to wait. So what happens if the element is visible at the fifth second itself? So let's we are waiting for the particular element for 10 seconds. But what if my element is loaded in the DOM in the fifth second itself? What will happen? Do you still think it will wait for the 10 seconds that we specified and then only it will process? Can someone say it? So if you have worked with explicit wait, we'll know, right? It doesn't wait for the particular 10 seconds. Whenever it finds the particular element, then it will kind of return to the program execution and it will continue, right? It will not wait for the 10 seconds. So if it waits for 10 seconds, then there is no difference between thread.sleep and the explicit wait. So it has to wait, but it has to return whenever the element loads in the DOM. So how it knows the element, I mean, the element is loaded in the DOM or not? So you're getting my point, right, everyone? Hello. Uh, okay. If the section a session is interactive, then like it will be more useful for everyone. Or you can post it in chat as well. So you're getting me question right? What I'm trying to ask. So it doesn't wait for the entire 10 seconds. If the element is loaded in the fifth second or so, then it automatically returns that element and it will proceed with the execution of remaining code. So how it knows actually the element is loaded in the fifth second or so?
No idea about this.
Okay, there is something called polling, right? So the whatever a particular script will do, it will poll the DOM for the particular element which we asked to configure every 5 to 10 milliseconds or 500 milliseconds. Right? Like, so these are the configurations which we it is not under our control in the explicit way. So it will poll the DOM every 500 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds. Then um, the particular element is loaded or not. We will know once the poll is successful, right? So once the poll fails for the duration of the total 10 seconds itself, then this particular thing fails. Right? So, okay. So what happens? This fluent wait gives us the final control over it. Actually, that is the only difference between a explicit wait and a fluent wait. So fluent wait, what it does, it gives us control of the explicit wait about few things like what exception it should ignore or how much time, how much millisecond it should poll the particular DOM for the particular element which we are kind of locating and all. So it gives such finer control. So because of that, we are able to do certain things over it. Right? Okay, let's see a few examples actually. Um, let's quickly clear all these things. Let's keep this. Okay. So what happens? There is something called wait class in Selenium. You pass the WebDriver instance. Right. So we'll pass the driver instance actually. So now we have created a Fluent instance object. So what we'll do, we'll try to configure this particular object itself. Or we'll try to configure this in the object itself. We'll come back to this particular piece of code shortly. So what we'll do, we'll just create a web element reference. So we are passing the Selenium keyword into Google, right? We'll just go to Google and we'll just try to find that particular piece of element. So what we wanted to validate is whether this particular link, Selenium website's link, is there or not. We saw this yesterday, right? So same thing, we'll try to inspect it. So we're taking this X path. So what we are doing, we are just taking this and we are just using the until condition here. Oh, sorry, now copy this X path. We'll try to run this and see the code later. We'll try to run this first. So what happens is like, so you see what has happened, right? It has opened the particular Google, first in the Selenium text which we have given there, and it is going to Selenium. We're clicking submit here, right? It's going to the particular search. Now we have configured our Fluent page actually. So what happens is like while creating the object of the Fluent driver itself, we are configuring certain things over it actually. So for what maximum timeout the particular wait has to wait before throwing an exception, and for how many seconds it has to poll the DOM, and what interval it has to poll the DOM to locate our or look for our element. So in this case, we have configured 30 and 2, right? So it will wait for 30 seconds and totally to find our DOM, and it will poll DOM every 2 seconds. So what exception it has to ignore, right? While doing that, it has to ignore no such element exception. Now, this until function, you are passing a new function itself. If you go to this function class, it's available in the java.util. It's an something called it's a functional interface actually. So functional interface is something which contains only one method, right? Remaining methods are either abstract or default methods actually, right? Static, abstract, or default methods. If you see, it's a default and static method. This is also default method. So always remember, a functional interface is some interface where it contains only one method which is not defined. Remaining method may be abstract or non-abstract method. You cannot go and put another method here. It will actually throw an error, right? Something like this. You cannot put a second method like this. So what happens when you are trying to create a new object for this particular function interface? Because no class, it's an interface, right? No class is implementing this. And now if you're trying to create an object for the particular interface itself, now it's asking us to provide an implementation for this particular apply function here, right? Okay. So what we are doing, we are overriding or we are creating the new definition for the apply function without implementing that interface itself directly. Whatever piece of code that he returned here is kind of implementation of that interface, but without creating any additional classes. Right? We override that particular apply function. Obviously, it returns the WebDriver, right? Because we pass WebDriver as a type here in the function itself. It has two generic arguments, right? Type and return value. Right? What's the type here? WebDriver. What's the return value? Web element. Right? So only we are able to return web element itself like this. Defining that web element, and it will apply all the properties that we have defined here for the web element. And once the element is found, we are just clicking that element, and we saw in the browser it is navigating to particular website, and it's able to wait for 5 seconds and quitting the browser. Right? So any confusion with respect to this? Or anything that is of not understanding nature in this? Okay, I'll repeat again. So we'll repeat from the first itself actually. So we know three types of weight, right? Implicit weight, explicit weight, and fluent weight, right? So what this implicit weight does? Implicit waits for this particular uh, every element in the DOM, irrespective of whatever we are trying to find in our script, it will wait for every element for the particular time which we have specified, right? We use the driver.manage.timeouts for and implicitly wait that function to specify how much time we have to wait until you throw an exception. Now, can Vinay, can you say me like what's an explicit wait? What you understand from the explicit wait? Because if you know that, it will be very easy to understand this.
Okay, Karthik. Explicit wait means it will not wait explicitly what we have given that time. Like if element we have given the time as 10 second. If
Okay.
element found within 10 second, it will go for the next execution.
Yeah, right. So we are narrowing down the things, right? Explicit wait we will apply for each and every element. For every element, we can configure an explicit wait, right?
Yes.
So that is explicit wait, and explicit wait how it is able to do with. I mean, even though we are specifying 10 seconds, if the element is identified within 2 seconds, how it is able to do with the 2 seconds?
By polling.
Yeah, by polling, right? So it
Yeah.
polls within certain interval whether the DOM is loaded the particular element or not. It polls the DOM, and it will if the element is founded, then it will let know, hey, element is founded, take this element. Right? So now we don't have any particular control of how much interval it has to poll and all, right? So only to give some fine grained control over the particular explicit weight, we have a fluent weight. So what happens is like we can control how much time it has to wait and for how much duration it has to poll. and within the time you should not throw no such element exception. Okay. Now will come. What happens is like this particular until function is there in this particular fluent weight class. We are applying it, and this we are creating a new function itself. There's a very good interface in our Java package called function. So once you implement it, you can customize what return type you want, or what input type it has to take, and what should be the return type. So here input type is of type WebDriver, because a particular driver is only going to be passed as an argument inside our apply function, right? If you see this, just 1 minute. If you see this function interface, there are two types, right? T and R. T is type, R is return value. The return value, there is only one method here, which is not defined. The T is passed as an argument, right? So whatever argument you are going to get with for this apply function, it has to be of the type which we pass here in as a first argument, right? So only we pass WebDriver as a first argument. So only the argument type of the particular thing is WebDriver. Okay. Now, return value is the second argument which we pass to this generic type. So it is a return type for this particular function, the function itself, right? Right. Now what happens? We find the particular element through XPath, and we are applying all the properties of the fluent weight we are asking it to do, right? So it waits for that particular thing for it will poll our DOM every 2 seconds. Once it is find it, then it will probably return the particular value, okay? And after returning the particular value, we are clicking on that element, and we are proceeding. So is that fine?
Yes, Karthik, fine.
So it is nothing but just giving a fine control over your I mean particular explicit weight. So if you see this explicit weight class, we have something called WebDriver weight we saw yesterday. Explicit weight you can configure using something called WebDriver weight, right? You see this WebDriver weight class, it is actually extending this fluent weight, right? So fluent weight is something, is the master or top level thing. So our WebDriver weight is actually extending this fluent weight, and this until function is actually available in this fluent weight only. Yeah. So this until function is there, right? That we use for our explicit weight also. It is actually available in the fluent weight class, which we are using in this WebDriver weight class. Right. So to say conclude it, WebDriver weight is actually an implementation of a fluent weight, because it is an extending fluent weight and using all its capabilities and its functionalities. So by using fluent weight, we are directly having that configuration or control over the fluent weight class itself instead of WebDriver weight. That is the only difference. Fine, right? Okay. So, okay, I think we are done with the weights. We should be kind of careful or write some meaningful wait seconds for every configuration that we have, right? Because if you generally, what's the general thing which we do in our live project is like we don't wait for too many time for our element to load. It may sometimes element loads because of internet connection also, right? So what we always wanted is like our particular piece of code to be always executed very faster. So we have to be always careful about how much weight actually we give for the execution of the particular thing in our script, right? So we have to be careful with those things actually. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the further topics. So we saw weights, and we'll see now uh, checkboxes and radio buttons. So we know what are checkboxes and radio buttons, right? The primary uses of checkbox and radio buttons is to give some input to the backend server. Okay, I'm selecting these kind of things in my particular form input, so I need these things. So what's the only difference between the checkbox and radio button is radio button, even though there are four options, you are able to select only one option, right? Whereas in checkboxes, you can select all the four options also, or if you don't want, you cannot select even one option also. Fine. That's the only difference, right, between a checkbox and radio button. So we'll try to do this. We have some demo website for given by Guru99 itself to test this out. Even if you wanted to work in a kind of real time, it's not actually real time project, kind of real time project. This Guru99 itself gives some solutions, right? This insurance project, agile bank, secure telecom, and payment gateway project. So you can explore this. If you try to register with your email ID, it will provide you some temporary username password. I think it's applicable for 15-20 days. I think you can probably try to explore these things. So finding a radio button is as good as finding its property or XPath. Right? We'll try to do this. So let's say we are trying to click on this particular option 3, right? Let's try to find the XPath of that. So when we okay, so when we type radio, we have a thing, right? It is showing here you have three elements matching to your XPath, like so. Either we can use this value option. So value they're given option 1, right? So we don't want to use that. We just use um, the index of that. So now it's highlighting the particular option, right? Value 3, which you wanted to do. So we'll take this. We'll try to run this. So this is the website, right? We'll take this. We'll delete all this for time being.
So Karthik, radio button is directly selected from XPath, right?
Yeah, right. One of the means of doing it, you can use any particular locator if that is applicable to the particular radio button, actually, not necessarily XPath.
Okay, okay.
We'll click it, we'll wait for some time. We'll quit, we'll try to run this. So it is selecting our option 3 here. So waiting for 4 seconds. You saw the execution, right, everyone? Or we'll try to wait for some more seconds. It is selecting our option 3. It will wait for some 8 odd seconds and it will hit. So it is very straightforward, actually, selecting a radio button somewhere down. So if you wanted to select the remaining 2, you can always go and choose the particular index. Try to change this to 1, actually, and we'll try to run. So it's doing, right? So similarly, we'll try to do for this checkbox. So instead of radio, we'll say checkbox. We'll try to click on it. We'll again wait for 4 more seconds before we quit. We'll try to run this. So it wait for 4 seconds and click the checkbox and it quits, right? So what we'll do, there is one state for this particular radio button checkbox, whether we can find this particular checkbox is selected or not, actually. So we'll just say
Karthik, why we have put thread.sleep after checkbox? Is there any need for that?
no, just to show the demo, right? So that the particular browser stays in our particular execution for that much time, so you're able to better view it clear.
Okay, okay.
I think. it should return true. We'll try to run this program. So it's returning true, right? So this type of things can be applied to radio button or checkboxes or even a list actually, right? So now if we use the same statement before clicking the checkbox, let's try to find whether returning true or false. Ideally, it should return false, right? Let's check. So in the first time, it is returning false, and the second time, it's returning true. Right? So this way we can validate whether this particular, because it's particularly useful in checkboxes, because radio buttons, even though once you select that, if you select this particular thing again, it is not going to uncheck this radio button. Once it is selected, then it's done, right? Whereas in checkbox, it's not the case, right? Once you select, then you can, if you click on it again, it will deselect it, right? So it's always good to test whether the particular is selected or not using this is selected method available in the find element sub method. Find whether the particular thing is selected or not. Then probably we can go and click on that once that is selected. It's always good practice to do like that. So in many conditions where it is useful is like in our web applications, real-time web applications, we might have scenarios where the particular thing might should have already been checked. Actually, if the page loads, the particular element should be checked always. Right? In the, there might be many scenarios you would have encountered in your real project like this. If you navigate the particular page, if there is any particular checkbox or any form input, the checkbox should be enabled by default. So we can validate those kind of things also using this is selected. Right? So once you validate this, then probably we can take certain actions over there. So these are all about, I mean, it's kind of very straightforward thing only. There's nothing too much complex or special about this checkbox and radio buttons. I just find that the particular locator. Generally, most of the time, ID or name or expert should be okay. Um, so once you find that, then probably we'll try to do certain things over that, right? Fine, everyone. Okay. So we'll quickly move to this drop down list also. We all know what's a drop down list, right? What's a drop down list? It has a certain list element, right? List element 1, list element 2, list element 3, and so on, right? So it may have many number of list elements as well. So what's the difference between a checkbox and the select option? Can anyone say? Hello? Are you there, right? Anyone? So a checkbox is something which we saw here, right? It's a form input. We can have multiple things selected as a checkbox here. So whereas a drop-down list, something is kind of a list we select as a drop-down. We'll see this actually. There is some demo site here. Okay. We'll try to find any website with this drop-down list. Okay. This particular demo dot most probably should have any. Okay. Okay. Currently, okay. I think this is a drop-down list. I think let's try to investigate this. Oh yes. Okay. Everything here is a drop-down list actually. Okay. We'll use this itself to test actually. Okay. We'll try to find the exploit of this particular SEO thing. So we'll try to apply it over here. Okay. We'll try to take this.
Why we have put dot dot ul?
Okay. So this particular thing, right? If you put slash double dot, it means the parent element. If you're finding this particular anchor tag with the text SEO here, which contains text SEO. So I am just asking it to go to the parent element. Double slash dot dot means it will go to the immediate parent, right? Li. From that, it is I'm asking it to find the child element ul, right? Right. So this is the particular thing. We'll try to do this. We'll try to configure this. So what I'll do, I'm just getting it in a list actually. You're getting it right, Ancho, here.
Yeah.
Actually, after the dual, let's find this li as well. If you go to this li, okay, there are 6 list elements, right? Okay. We'll try to iterate for each and every element. Okay, we'll get the directly this link itself, li/a. I will try to bring this down. Yeah. So what we are trying to do is like we are trying to click this page. Let's say we are trying to click this page 3 actually. Okay. So we are just saying if e dot get text dot equals, we get this particular this is page 3, right? Page 3. So if it matches, then we'll say e dot click. Okay. And we'll just wait for thread dot sleep from 5000 milliseconds. We'll try to run this and see what happens. Okay, let's close. Essentially, there's something called select a class in where you can select this particular drop-down list. But I'm not able to find proper example currently. Actually, maybe I'll try to get a better example for this select. Actually, so you have to have the selected tag actually in your DOM to actually use it. Right, maybe we'll try to find a proper example. I'm not sure why this is not low or it's taking too many time. Okay. Trying to take this. Okay, I think we have to hover over this particular element and click. Okay, I think that is the problem. Maybe it's not a proper example to start initially. Maybe I'll show a better example if I. Okay, Tunas gave me one. Okay, Mithun, we'll try this. Okay. I'm not sure it's taking too much time. Okay, we'll close this and we'll try this actually. Yeah, it is proper with the selected tab actually. So whenever you have the select tag, then only you can go and use the select class actually. Right, we'll try to use this. We'll delete all these things. So you have this select class in our particular Selenium, right? Let's say select, this is what day select, right? So we'll just pass that element reference here. I think we can element directly. It's straightforward. I think we can find using ID. There's only, okay, yeah, we can find using ID, right? So we have multiple options to select actually. Let's try to select this Sunday and try. So we'll select by visible text. We'll select using Sunday, right? We will wait for some 5 seconds or so. We'll try to quit after that. Okay. Yeah, Sunday is selected. So what happens in this kind of modern applications is you don't get to use this select option nowadays. Is a kind of application to show the demo, as we saw in this even in the Guru 99 website, right? We don't have actually option to use this particular select app because it doesn't have. So they have this option called UL. UL is unordered list, LI is list elements, right? So they use kind of those kind of things. In those kind of scenarios, we have to again take the element as a list and we have to iterate over and find which is the option. We have to do those things. So if you having the select, then it's very simple, it's very straightforward. You can use this select class and you can select the particular select tag by ID or name or XPath, whatever. And inside this selection select class, we have this option also, right? And there are three ways where we can select the particular text. One is by visible text. Visible text is something which is shown here, right? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. This is a visible text, and you can select by value also. So there is something called value attribute for this option tag, right? Value we can give 1 2 3 also, it's optional. So they are given the same name as this particular visible text itself. So even if you use this value, it's going to be the same. Select by value, we pass Sunday. So now it will not select search for this visible text Sunday, it will search for this value Sunday, then it will try to select that. We'll try to run this again. Okay, it's selecting. So again, you have a one more option, but generally we don't prefer that. We can select by its index. Next, do some third index. We'll try to run it. So it's selecting Tuesday right after selecting Sunday. So we can select by index as well. Okay. And there are other methods in this select actually where you can take advantage of. You can deselect all. And there is an option called is multiple. There are many times where you have to select multiple options in the drop down, right? There may be some scenarios like that, like this multi-select, and to select this and this, right? I'm selecting Florida and New York. So what you have to do, you have to just check if that is a multi-select or not. So you can just say it's a multi-select true or not. It's multi-select. If you give this, it will return either true or false. So if it's returning true, then we'll know it's a multi-select dropdown. So we can go and select more than one list on one element over, right? And what are the other options we have? We have deselect option also, right? Now notify. Okay, other things are common. Common object class. Okay, main things to note is like see, we are getting the options also, right? All the option element we are getting as a list of web element also. That's also possible. Getting the wrapped element also. Main things to notice that there are three types of select by I mean index, value, and visible text, and we can select using any one of these. And there is an option to check whether it's a multiple list or not, multiple drop down selection list or not. Using this is multiple option. So these are the main things to know. That is it about self. Nothing too much complicated. It's also straightforward, like checkboxes and radio buttons. So fine, I think we can. We saw many things today. We saw what is fluent wait and what is radio buttons, checkboxes, and select drop downs. I think we can wrap up the session. So anything we need to discuss? Okay. Okay, I think we can wrap up the session for today. All right. So we'll continue with the different topic tomorrow. We'll continue with Selenium. So
Karthik,
fine. Yes, Mithun, right?
can you please share the previous recordings?
Yes. We'll do it within today, Mithun.
Oh, okay, Karthik, thank you.
Today recording as well.
Yeah, sure. We'll upload everything within today.
Cool. Thanks, Karthik.
Okay. Thank you.